I will say that, like a lot of people, I saw the Getty images of the pillow dropping behind the skirt, and I thought at first they could be photoshopped, but Getty images is very reliable.
Let's not beat around the bush. What just leaked from Buckingham Palace sounds more like the plot of a royal drama than real life, but here we are. According to high-level insiders with direct links to the royal inner circle, there's now a formal demand for DNA tests on Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's children. You heard that right, actual DNA tests. Not speculation, not whispers, not social media gossip, but an official push from inside the monarchy itself to verify the bloodline of Archie and Lilibet. This isn't just unprecedented, it's explosive.
So are you saying that he's 2 weeks older? And so I thought maybe that would allow time to wean the baby away from a birth mother if a surrogate was used. It would make sense, but instead of lying to the world, why not just say, we want a baby, we're having a baby, and we're using a surrogate.
And if you're wondering how it got this far, what sparked this kind of royal chaos, and what's about to happen next, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Because what comes next will shake the crown to its core, and you'll want to be here when it does. So how did we get here? It didn't start with this bombshell DNA request. It began years ago with whispers, the kind of subtle, suspicious glances people exchanged whenever Meghan stepped out during her first pregnancy. Whispers about her baby bump shifting sizes, changing positions, or simply vanishing. Videos circulated online showing her squatting easily in heels during her third trimester, walking with no signs of discomfort, and wearing clothes that made her belly appear oddly flexible. At the time, these rumors were dismissed. Critics were labeled as rude, sexist, even racist. The official narrative was firm. Meghan was pregnant, radiant, and rewriting the image of the modern royal mother. But the whispers never went away. In fact, they only grew louder with time. What really reignited the firestorm was a set of Getty images, yes, from the widely trusted Getty agency, showing Meghan's bump seemingly deflating under her dress. Some assumed the photos were fake, but Getty is no tabloid. These weren't fakes. And suddenly, what once looked like a fringe conspiracy started looking like a legitimate question. Then came the real shocker. Word from within palace walls that a review had been launched. Not a public investigation, not a press release, but a quiet, detailed internal audit of everything. Every photo, every timeline, every public statement about Meghan's pregnancy with Archie. And what that audit found or didn't find is what led us here. No hospital documents, no royal physician statements, no formal record of delivery, no doctor's signature, nothing. That's not just weird, it's unheard of. Royal births are meticulously documented. Every bouquet of flowers, every name, every minute is usually tracked, recorded, and released in statements for the public record. But in Meghan's case, silence, gaping holes, missing links. Now let's be clear, the issue here isn't surrogacy. Millions of families use surrogates, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. If Meghan and Harry had come forward with honesty and said, "We chose a surrogate," the world probably would have understood, maybe even applauded them. But the accusation isn't just about using a surrogate, it's about allegedly faking a pregnancy, publicly presenting it as her own, and building an entire media narrative around it. And if that deception occurred, it's not just a lie, it's a betrayal. A global one. Because what came next was more than just baby news, it was an empire. The image of Meghan and Harry as brave, modern parents breaking the mold helped sell book deals, secure Netflix contracts, and paint the couple as heroic victims of an outdated, oppressive institution. They became global icons of change. But if that story is built on a fake pregnancy, then the foundation of that narrative begins to rot. The monarchy has always stood on three things: tradition, image, and bloodline. In an institution that exists to preserve royal legacy and hereditary succession, questions about the children's biological legitimacy aren't just personal, they're institutional. Which brings us to King Charles, now officially crowned and steering the future of the monarchy. Charles is reportedly furious behind closed doors, determined to modernize and trim the royal family's public-facing roles. He's also deeply focused on protecting its legitimacy. And in that context, Meghan and Harry's children, who are in the line of succession, represent a potential constitutional crisis if there's even a shadow of doubt about their heritage. That's why, according to sources, the palace is done whispering. They've issued an internal directive. The line of succession must be airtight. Titles, roles, and honors will not be assigned under a cloud of doubt. Which is why the unthinkable has now happened. The palace is demanding proof, a DNA test, to silence speculation or confirm it. That's the line in the sand. And behind that demand is a deeper fear. Because this isn't just about PR anymore. It's not about tabloids or media strategy. It's about the crown itself, its structure, its future. Its right to exist in a world increasingly skeptical of inherited power. And it's not just King Charles raising eyebrows. Prince William is reportedly outraged at how far things have spun out of control. Not only because of what it means for the monarchy, but because his own children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, will one day be the face of that legacy. Any stain on the family name now could follow them for generations. Princess Anne is said to have labeled the situation a disgrace, calling it an embarrassment that reflects a complete lack of foresight from Harry and Meghan. And what about Harry? He's been Meghan's fiercest defender. He's cut ties with his family, accused the palace of racism and abuse, and framed the media as their shared enemy. But if he knew the pregnancy was fake, if he knowingly participated in selling a false story to the public, then his reputation may be beyond repair. Because this goes deeper than scandal. This is a potential royal fraud. And now, the palace is preparing to act. Insiders suggest that if Meghan and Harry refuse the DNA request, there will be consequences. Titles stripped, children removed from succession, and the couple formally severed from any remaining royal connection. The institution, it seems, is ready to protect itself and the public. They've had enough. Clips of Meghan's belly changing shapes are going viral again. Side-by-side comparisons are flooding social media. Analysts and influencers are breaking down bump physics like it's a crime scene. But what's often lost in that noise is the gravity of what's really at stake here. Because if this was faked, if this pregnancy was a Hollywood illusion crafted for public favor, then it's not just deception. It's a full-blown manipulation of public trust. And the backlash has already begun. The backlash isn't just digital, it's institutional. Former palace staff members, royal commentators, and even figures who once defended Meghan and Harry are now publicly asking, where's the proof? And more importantly, why the silence? Because let's face it, if there was nothing to hide, why not put the rumors to rest? Why not release documentation, issue a statement, or submit to the DNA request and clear the air? Instead, there's been radio silence. No confirmations, no denials, just carefully curated PR and smiling appearances, and that silence is no longer being seen as dignity or privacy. It's being interpreted as avoidance, strategic, calculated, and manipulative. For many, the refusal to address the allegations is, at this point, an answer in itself. The monarchy, though, isn't waiting around for voluntary compliance. According to insiders, King Charles has given unofficial clearance for deeper legal and genealogical inquiries. If Meghan and Harry fail to cooperate, that could mean reaching out to hospitals, subpoenaing medical staff, and if necessary, exploring legal avenues to secure paternity testing through third parties. It's unprecedented, it's brutal, but in the eyes of the palace, it's essential, because the monarchy is no stranger to scandal. But this is different. This is existential. If the bloodline of the Sussex children is proven false or even questionable, it would call into question everything the crown is built upon. And here's where things get even more tangled. If the DNA test shows that Harry is the biological father, but Meghan was not the physical mother, say, in the case of surrogacy, it might reduce public anger but won't erase the accusation of deception. Because the damage wasn't in the method, it was in the lie. The alleged staging. The public narrative built on something untrue. And if the test reveals Harry is not the biological father, then it's not just a scandal, it's a catastrophe. That would spark a constitutional crisis the monarchy isn't equipped to handle. Royal legal teams would be forced to act. Parliament might get involved. The line of succession could face a public and legal reshuffling, and the public fallout would be explosive. Even loyal monarchists would demand transparency, and the entire institution could lose credibility worldwide. And what about the children? They didn't choose any of this. They didn't ask to be born into the most publicized family in the world. Yet now, their futures hang in the balance, not just emotionally, but legally and politically. That's what makes this so tragic. Because if Meghan had simply told the truth, if the pregnancy had been positioned as a private journey involving a surrogate for medical or personal reasons, the world might have rallied behind her. Today's audience is far more accepting and compassionate than most give them credit for. But by allegedly turning that story into a media fairy tale, Meghan and Harry invited the spotlight that now refuses to leave, so now they're cornered. And the palace. It's done playing nice. Sources say if no DNA proof is provided in the coming months, official action will be taken. Titles could be stripped. Invitations permanently rescinded. Royal patronages revoked. And most importantly, Archie and Lilibet, royal recognition could be erased from the institution's records. King Charles is reportedly heartbroken. Not because he relishes conflict with his son but because he knows the monarchy cannot afford another fracture. Public trust is already fragile. And this scandal left unresolved could shatter it completely. And Prince William. He's reportedly livid. Close aides say William views this not only as a betrayal of the family but as a threat to his own children's future. The idea that George, Charlotte, and Louis could inherit a throne tarnished by unchecked deception is unacceptable. William has allegedly pushed Charles to draw a hard line to demand accountability and defend the crown. Even Queen Camilla is said to be alarmed. She's kept mostly quiet on Sussex matters, but insiders claim she's fully aligned with Charles and William this time. The stakes are simply too high. The monarchy is on the line. And as this internal storm brews, the public keeps watching. Meme culture aside, this has evolved into a broader conversation about truth, legacy, and the cost of illusion. The story of Meghan and Harry was once celebrated as bold, romantic, and progressive. But now, the illusion is cracking. And what's behind it may not be brave or noble, but dangerously manipulative. So what happens next? That's the question. Meghan and Harry are now in a lose-lose position. If they comply with the DNA test and it confirms everything, the question becomes, why lie? And if they refuse, the palace and the public will assume the worst. There's no easy exit anymore. No Netflix interview can rewrite this story. No heartfelt documentary can patch these cracks. Because at its core, this scandal isn't just about two individuals, it's about an institution that depends on truth, however inconvenient, however ugly. And that truth, it's closing in. If Meghan and Harry continue to stall, public perception will only worsen. If they admit to deception, the fallout may be immediate, but it might also offer a sliver of redemption. Honesty, even late, can sometimes restore dignity. But if they double down and pretend this storm will pass, they may find themselves permanently exiled not just from Buckingham Palace, but from the public's trust. This story is far from over. In fact, the biggest moment may still be ahead. One swab, one test, one answer, and an entire legacy hanging in the balance. So if you want to be the first to know what happens next, what bombshells drop, how the palace responds, and how the world reacts, then make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Because trust me, the story of Meghan, Harry, and the royal DNA scandal is only just beginning.